everybody, Key Dynamite here, and hello to each and every one of you out there watching. Today I am going to talk about the Winx Club, or excuse me, Fate Winx Saga. I just watched it and I have some thoughts, so let's get right into the video. So we start out with an old man and I'm like, okay, he's gonna die. Going after his sheep that escaped, and then he sees that it is dead, and then he's like, oh, I gotta get out of here, and he tries to get back into the force field. Surprise, surprise, he dies. Now this is rated MA for, it says language and smoking, and what was the reason? So then we're introduced to Bloom, who's like, oh, looking at the campus. We see how the campus looks, and it is quite gloomy and dark, and I can understand they're probably filmed this in the UK somewhere. But I'm like, that's what filters are for. Can you just make it a little brighter? Can we have some more colors here? The campus was just blah. It was like a castle of bricks, and that's pretty much it. We meet Stella, you know, of course she's the popular one. She's taking pictures with her friends, and Bloom is just like pretty much taking it in. Everyone's has a British accent or English accent, and I'm like, was that also necessary? No, but I mean, it's fine, I guess. It doesn't bother me or anything. I'm like, are they trying to make this like Hogwarts? And like even later they have a Harry Potter joke, so I'm like, y'all are trying to make this like a Harry Potter thing. We meet Tara, and she's kind of like, like bumbly and very giddy and talkative. I mean, a little bit too much for me. I feel Musa. Musa is me. I am Musa. But she's very talkative, and then she mentions that she has a cousin named Flora, and her mother is named Rose, and there's like a thing with names and blah blah. And I'm like, so y'all just gonna say that Flora exists in this world and that she's her cousin? I'm like, y'all could have just, how hard was it to? Bloom is, you know, I don't know how I feel about that. In the beginning I was like, I don't know how I feel about this main character. I didn't get like a, oh, I know I'm gonna love her type feel. But we meet Sky, and he sees her like walking around campus, and he's like, do you, like, he's basically just trying to talk to her, and she like assumes that he's into her, and I'm like, okay, kind of cocky, but I'll allow it in this instance. But then she starts doing it more throughout the episode, so I was like, okay, Bloom, we get it. Seeing her right off the bat like running after her was kind of cliche, like, who's that girl? She's so fine. Who's that guy? I don't recognize. If you get that reference, please comment down below. So then we have the guys who are training, and let me tell you, the teacher who trains the guys is Thomas from Downton Abbey. Listen, I say, you know what? Maybe this show ain't so bad. Maybe. Because listen, I love me some Thomas in Downton Abbey. I really like the actor. And so when I saw him, I was like, oh, they're not playing around. I feel like he must be like the most paid person. Like, this is Downton Abbey, dude, okay? Show some respect. But I'm glad to see him on there, because that's something that I can look forward to, is his character named Saul. So they talk about these things, these creatures called the Burned Ones, which is what killed the shepherd. And they are these things that, like, if they cut you, you become infected. And one of the kids, his name is Dane, he's like kind of disrespectful to Saul, and he's like, oh, like he makes some kind of remark, and Saul is like, I met one, I saw one with my own eyes, and it cut my father. I had to kill my father, which was inferred. He had to kill his father. I'm like, Dane, first of all, sit down. Aren't you a first year? So right off the back, I don't like Dane, because I'm like, you're not taking this seriously. If you don't want to be here, don't be here. Go to a regular school. River, we meet him. He's sparring with Sky, and he is a jerk. And he goes out to smoke and outside the barrier. And I'm like, if you guys know that they're saying outside the barrier is dangerous and you're going out there anyway, why? So he finds the dead body of the shepherd, and he's like, ah, and he runs back and tells the school. And then they come out and they're like, oh, this is charred. And also, one of the professors or staff is not Flora, what is her name? Tara's father. I don't know how, I mean, I guess they did that for a reason, but we'll find out later, I guess, or whatever. And so, yeah, they find the body and they're like, oh, we have to do something about this. So we have that plot line coming back because they said 16 years ago, a woman named Rose, a fairy, like defeated them all or pushed them back or something like that. But I'm like, they keep saying Rosalind. I'm trying to figure out if Rose is Tara's mother because Rosalind Rose. But Tara's father doesn't say anything about it, so I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. So we meet Musa and we find out that she is a mood fairy or mind fairy, and she can feel, she's a very strong empath. She can feel everything that someone is feeling, and she's just getting kind of annoyed with Tara because Tara is very talkative. And I'm like, I feel Musa on every level. I mean, sometimes you just want to be left alone. You just want to be listening to your music, and Tara is just let's have a conversation, and I'm just like, not everybody wants to be talking all the time. So I don't know how far I'm gonna be liking Tara trying to push this girl out of her shell. First of all, we just met. It's been a day. Let Musa do her own thing. Let her just chill. We meet Beatrix, and she's obviously the bad one. They don't pull any punches with letting us know that she is. And it's just kind of like, okay, like, cool. I do wish they had 2 girls instead of 1, like in the cartoon. But the headmistress obviously was not feeling her. She was like, I'm a big fan, I'm blah, 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 blah. And she was like, okay, so go back to school. And then she shuts the door. So that was our first scene with Beatrix. At this point, to me, Bloom is annoying. She assumes a lot of things. Like while she's talking to Sky at the dance or dinner or whatever, it's like the writers are trying too hard to make her that girl who has some confidence, and she's calling a guy out on like their mansplaining and like BS. But I'm like, if you're doing it too much, it's like, okay, we get it. There's a way to do it, and so it's not like, oh, like she's being annoying at this point. After Bloom Goat leaves, we find out that Sky and Stella have a history, and they kind of hinted at that in the beginning because when he was talking to Bloom, Stella was looking towards, their way, like, what are they talking about? And I don't like this because it just creates more of that trope division of like, oh, I don't want you dating my man. And it's gonna take a long time I feel like it's gonna take more time for Stella and Bloom to become friends. And it also, I'll talk about more of the trope for Stella of what they have so far for her, but I don't like it. So one of my things with the actress for Bloom is sometimes when she's conveying different emotions, it's hard for me to believe her. Like when she's in the forest and she starts to get angry, I'm like, okay. Like I just don't feel like she's really trying to get these powers out. Maybe it'll change in the next episode, but I hope that she gets better at making me feel what the character is feeling. But yeah, I wasn't super impressed with that, but that's just me. That's just my opinion. So basically, Bloom loses control, and Aisha comes in and she's like, hey, you're not supposed to be out here, Bloom. And she's like, I'm losing control. And she's like, you need to calm down because you're gonna take it out on me because of your emotions. And Aisha makes it stop because she has the power of water, liquid, whatever. She makes it stop, the fire's out, and Bloom does not thank her. She's like, you shouldn't even be out here. And I'm like, first of all, Bloom, you shouldn't be out here. So I don't know what you're talking about, and you need to thank her because you could have burnt the whole forest down. Bloom is, she's that character who is like entitled, she's rude to her parents, and you can say, oh, well, she didn't know she was a fairy and she's going through all of this stuff. Okay, fine. But that doesn't mean she has to call her mom a basic bee. That doesn't mean she has to criticize her mom for wanting her to get out the house. Like Bloom is coming off as a butthole, and I don't like her. So while she's talking to Aisha, Aisha is trying to figure out more things about Bloom, and she's like, are you sure, like, you're not adopted? And she's like, no, I know I'm not adopted. She's like, well, maybe, oh my gosh, like, you're a changeling. And she's like, no. She's like, Bloom is just like totally, I mean, I can understand of you being like, girl, what are you talking about? But she's like being like rude and nasty to Aisha, and I don't like that. And even Aisha says something like, sorry for saving you, or sorry for stopping you from burning down the forest. And Bloom still does not thank her, and she walks away in anger. Yeah, so we basically find out that Bloom almost killed her parents because she was so angry. I'm like, you psycho. I cannot, like, so you're telling me that the power just took over? She literally just stood there like this as the fire went. And I'm like, no, I don't believe that. Like, I'm trying to figure out of where, I know they're saying it's all on your emotions, right? The magic. But I'm like, you literally almost killed your parents and you gave your mother 3rd-degree burns. I can and I know that Bloom feels bad about it now, but Bloom just has a bad attitude, and I'm not feeling it at all. So yeah, I actually respect Bloom's mom taking the door off her. The classic, I'm taking your door off your hinges. Never happened to me because I was respectful to my parents. But her mom says something to her like, oh, you think I'm a basic bee? I'm like, yes, throw her words right back at her. So yeah, I like Bloom's mom. I like Bloom's parents too, actually, so let me add them to the list. So while they're figuring out the changeling thing, so after Bloom and Aisha's conversation, we switch over to Dane and River, and River's like trying to make him drink alcohol, and Tara comes over and she's like, stop trying to make him do that. And then he makes like a big girl joke, and then she's like, she gives this big girl speech, and I'm like, she's like, big girls are supposed to be happy and jolly and so and so. And I'm like, writers, y'all don't have to tell us this. We know the stereotypes, we know the tropes. Just write her as a confident person who takes up for people. You didn't have to explain that to us. Instead of, if he made a big girl joke, what y'all could have done was her saying something else like, you think that's gonna hurt my feelings? Or instead, nothing at all, and then choke him with the vines. Then that's showing us that she is in control of her powers. She's confident, she can take up for others. I just don't like the telling all the time instead of showing. Like, okay, now this is becoming a stereotype trope just because you added that into the dialogue. We didn't need that speech. Is Tara a cool character? Yes. Do I appreciate that she is a different body type? Absolutely. But please, with the speeches. And it's just like the thing with Bloom. The dialogue for her, it's like she's coming off to me as unlikable. Then we have the classic Google. And it took me back to Twilight when she was Googling vampires, when Bloom started Googling changeling magic and stuff. I was like, okay. So I have in my notes, Stella's a mean girl. Great. Because she gives Bloom her ring to set up her portal to go home. And the girls are like, why would you do that? Da, 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 da. And she's like, she was homesick, whatever. Making Stella the mean girl is such a lazy thing to do. She's the blonde girl. She's the popular girl. She's the fashionable girl. Let's make her mean. Let's make her petty. Let's make her dependent on a guy that she broke up with and is now feeling jealous. Also, that was really awkward because like she was cuddling him like a child in that scene where she's like, please let me stay here. I was like, why? I don't know if they're doing this to make her have character development and to change and to become the friend of the group, but right now it's like I would have appreciated it more if you gave her character development in another way, because we've seen this storyline 1,001 times. Bloom takes the portal and she's talking to her mother. But long story short, she goes back and she ends up getting chased by a burned one. She drops the portal ring and her headmaster saves her, and she's back in Althea, and the headmaster chained it up, and I'm like, girl, just kill it. And I'm with Saul, why didn't you kill it? Beatrix sets it free and wakes it up, of course. Have Dane, who is texting Tara and is like, thanks for helping me, and she's like, yeah, no problem. And Dane is on River's social media and he liked a photo by mistake, which, been there.
What?
I'm like, so Dane likes River or has a crush on him, even though I'm like, so can we not do this thing where someone likes another person who's really mean to them, but they like them anyway?
Shame, shame, shame. Shame on you.
Please. So, long story short, the effects were cool, but the story so far for me is just very, it's not, I'm gonna watch the rest of it, but it's not grabbing my attention like I wish it would. I mean, I want to like it. I don't want to hate watch it, but so far for me, the only people who are worth to keep watching is Aisha and Musa. Everyone else feels like a trope, caricature, stereotype, and it's annoying. Also Saul, my boy Saul, and the headmaster. But I'm just like, okay. That's all I have to say. Please like and subscribe. Tell me your guys' thoughts down in the comments. Sorry if this was negative, but it's really hard not to compare from what the original was. So thank you guys for watching. I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.